Hey guys, what's up? Dingocrikey here with another figure review. This time we're going to be looking at Transformers Universe or Universe Classics 2.0 Deluxe Class Hound. This figure was originally released in December of 2008 in the 4th Deluxe wave of the Universe line for the price of $9.99. And this Hound figure was also released with a new updated Ravage figure, which you can see I have here. And speaking of him, let's take a look at him first. So here we have him in his alternate mode, which is a cassette tape. There you can see the top of the cassette, front, the side, the other side, the bottom, and there's the back. As far as details, he does have these holes here, which would be present in a cassette tape. He also has the Decepticon symbol on the front. Now, two things you might have already noticed. One is this piece looks to be broken. That is the case. We'll be getting into that a little bit more in the transformation. And kind of going along with that, you probably noticed as I'm turning him around, he really seems flimsy, like he's flopping out of place a whole lot. And with my copy of the figure, that does seem to be the case, which can get kind of annoying. As far as features in this mode, one of them is with Hound. So you can see, we'll bring Hound up close here. You have these two little pegs on the back. What you can do is just take the holes of the cassette tape. You want to push them over top of those pegs. And there we go. And now, I haven't seen every episode of Generation 1 to confirm it, but I've heard that this was done kind of in an homage to an original scene where Ravage was captured by the Autobots. But another thing you can do is actually have this version of Ravage have a function in the original Soundwave figure, or the commemorative series version. So let's move Hound to the side for a minute here. Let's bring in the commemorative series version of Soundwave. All we can see here is we have the tape deck, and you can actually take this new version of Ravage, and he will, in fact, fit into the tape deck quite nicely. Now, while Ravage fits in there pretty nicely himself, when you take another tape, and here we have Laserbeak, and you try to put him in there with Ravage, as with the G1 cassette tapes, you can fit two figures, you'll find he really doesn't seem to want to fit. So I'm not going to force it, and I don't think you can fit two tapes in there, which is a little bit unfortunate because he will kind of shake around in there, but holds a little bit better than the other tapes do, surprisingly. So here we can see Universe Ravage with his commemorative series counterpart along with Laserbeak and Soundwave. And let's bring the two Ravages in for a closer look. As you can see, they're both stylized quite differently. So before we get into Ravage's transformation, let's take a look at Hound's alternate mode. So here you can see it up close, and there's a look at the front, the side, there's the other side, the bottom, and there you have the top. As far as the color scheme goes, we do have this bright green color, which is kind of an interesting choice for Hound since he's usually more of a forest green. He also has this translucent blue up here on the headlights, a little bit of yellow on the little circles down there and up there. Taillights are painted red. We have white seats in there. We have some black throughout, and then some of this gunmetal gray. Give you a look at the details on the wheels. The wheels and tires, unfortunately, aren't painted separately. There you can see we have some really nice details for the interior of the Jeep. Then we also have the seats being detailed really nicely. Despite some of the more detailed features, he does sort of have a cartoony look to him. I kind of realized this, I couldn't really put my finger on it. I've heard some other reviewers mention the fact that his wheels are really big in proportion to the rest of his car. He also has the small glass up here, so I guess that kind of does it. Also the fact that despite details such as this, a lot of the other areas kind of have a pretty smooth look to them. I always figured this was kind of inspired by the Transformers animated line as it was ongoing at the same time of the Universe 2.0 line. As far as accessories in this mode, we already went over the Ravage feature. He also has this Hologram Gun, as I believe it's called, and what you can do here is you see this little hole at the back of the seat, little piece here on the hologram weapon. You just take it, hold the seat in place with one finger, and the hologun gets pushed in with the other, and now he's armed in vehicle mode, and it holds really nicely in place, is colored to go with the rest of him. So as far as any other features in this mode, due to the fact of how high his wheels are off of the ground, he has a really nice roll feature. So here we have Hound compared with some other Universe 2.0 figures: Ultra Class Hardhead, Deluxe Class Ironhide, and Deluxe Class Hotshot. Here he is with two of the recent Combiner Wars figures, Deluxe Class Prow and Deluxe Class Rook. And here we have him compared with some other figures from the various versions of the Classics and Generation line: Classics, Deluxe Class Bumblebee, Generations Blur, and Thrilling 30 RC. So for the transformations, before we get into Hound, let's take a look at Ravage's transformation. And it's pretty simple. You want to take him from the bottom, flip out these parts of the legs, then you want to rotate the rest of it downward, like so. Push that down for right now. Then we want to take the two back legs, push them together, bring the front ones down, and just rotate them there downward. Next, you want to get your fingernail in there and pop the head out. And you would also flip out the tail, but unfortunately broke off on mine. So there we have Ravage in his Jaguar mode. And before we get to looking at him, we'll take a look at Hound's transformation. First thing you want to do here is just remove this accessory. You do want to be careful when you're doing this so the hologram blaster attachment piece doesn't become cracked, so just be careful with how you pull it out. And first thing we're going to want to do is push these seats downward, and now we can work with the legs. So first up with the legs, just want to loosen them out of place and pull them back, pull them apart. And you're going to rotate these giant green pieces downward, which become his feet. Then what we had is the back of his seats. Push these down into his legs. Next, you want to take this little piece here, pull it out, and push it downward like that. Then you want to take this entire body area and push it as far back as it will go. And we're probably going to need to work with a little bit more once we're done doing this upper body. First, you want to flip these upper arms out as far as the hands. Get your fingernail in there and flip them out. You should hear a nice little clicking sound as well. Then we want to take the wheels that are on these double hinges and pull them backward like so, and use a little bit of force. Now we can bring the body forward, and now you want to make sure this lower part of the torso has gone back as far as it can, and that you get that nice click when you're bringing the chest down, because it can be quite easy to displace this guy's body and then having it flopping around. You want to make sure you get that click with the chest. And pop Hound's head out. And with these wheels in the back, I've seen people also do a number of things with this. A lot of people like this look, but what I'm going to do for this review is just flip them like this. And I think it looks pretty cool, so we'll leave it like that. There we have Hound in robot mode, if he'll stand properly. We'll be getting into that. But before we look at Hound, let's take a look at Ravage in his Jaguar mode. So, there, give you guys a good look at him. There's the front, the side, the other side, the tailless back, the top, and there is the bottom. As far as colors, exact same thing as the cassette mode, except we now do have red details on his eyes. Take a look at the cat head and see, you know, they do kind of have these molded in a way that they look sort of like ears. The details are just kind of basic stuff. We have some lines going through here. You know, these painted this gunmetal gray. As for the articulation, this guy, basically it's in the gray parts of the legs. They can go back and forth like that. Then the back, about that far back, and that far forward. As far as the head goes, you can bring it all the way down as would be necessary, and up just about like that. And you have this kind of slant in the body. You can situate that just about any way you want by positioning these back and front legs. For the overall feel of the figure, having him in hand, I would describe him as feeling very delicate, really light, and in areas like this, such as this, very easy to break, as I got this guy around 2008, was already old enough that I was no longer playing with my Transformers. This figure wasn't even in stop motion or anything. This part was just really loose and broke off. I don't know if that's a recurring problem with the figure, but I do think it's something to be aware of, as the figure overall has a pretty loose and kind of flimsy feel to it. As far as any gimmicks or accessories, the figure itself doesn't have any, but what we can do is take the rockets from the commemorative series version of Ravage, or the original figure, and they will attach to his back legs, and you might have to push them a little bit more than you would do with the Generation 1 figure, but the rockets will in fact fit onto this Ravage, which I think is a really nice touch. Here we have Universe 2.0 Ravage compared with his original counterpart, and here's a quick look at Ravage compared with Hound. And we'll now move aside Ravage and take a closer look at the Deluxe Class Hound figure himself. So first we'll have a quick body scroll, give you guys a look at him from head to toe. There's a close-up look at the face, and here's him from the front, the side, other side, the back, the bottom, and there is the top. As far as the color scheme goes, we have pretty much the same colors. As far as significant details, there are a few to speak of. He has his sort of signature arm stripes. He does also have this little army star up here, which is kind of cool. As far as articulation goes, let's first get the arms out of the way to look at the legs. They can go back and forth as they're on a ball joint here. Can stretch out just about that far. You also have a rotation at the knee. Can go almost all the way around. They are prohibited a little bit by this piece here. At the knee, he can bend just about that far back. Not a whole lot of articulation there. We have these huge honking feet, which can do that. And they also have some, I don't know what you call this, swivel here. We don't have any articulation in the waist area as far as the arms go. The upper arms are on a ball joint, so they can go all the way around. They can go out, you know, do all those basic things. Above the elbow, we can go all the way around. At the elbow, it can go forward. And as for the head, it is on a ball joint, so it can go all the way around. As far as kibble and bad bits, what do we have on this guy? Well, in my opinion, he has quite a few. For one, because of the way the transformation is done and this whole waist piece, we do have some gappiness here. We can also have some problems making this connection between the waist and the rest of the body. As you can probably see when I was articulating the figure, it can come out of place quite a bit. I guess some people may consider this stuff back here kibble. Personally, it doesn't really bother me. If anything, I think these wheels kind of add to the overall aesthetic. Another thing I would like to point out is just how big these feet are and kind of the way they're structured. Some may not find this to be a con, as they might like the way it looks. To be fair, it is kind of the look he has on the Generation 1 figure. Personally, I would have preferred if they would have done something a little bit more with the feet to not only make them a little bit less clunky and kind of goofy looking from the side, but also so he can stand better, because he doesn't really have a good heel, and it can cause him to actually fall over a lot unless you have him in just the right position. Outside of a few parts such as the body, which can become a little loose when you're articulating the figure, it has a pretty solid feel in my opinion. You know, we do have some hollow looking parts here, but it doesn't feel like a hollow figure to me. Definitely not in comparison to some of the more recent ones we have. As far as any additional features or accessories, well, we do have Ravage, so I guess I'll just bring him into the picture here. But we also have his Hologram Gun, and there are two functions for this. One, you can take this square handle here and just peg it into his hand, and you can hold it like a blaster. Then we can also take it out of his hand, and for the next function we'll need to move these wheels out of the way, maybe just like that. And what we're supposed to be able to do, I believe, is take this little piece here again and peg it into that spot. So we'll give it a try, but I have found it doesn't really hold all that well on my figure. Like, as soon as you try to straighten it out, it's coming out of place. I mean, you can kind of rest it there, and it will give him his traditional Hound look, but it is kind of disappointing that that doesn't seem to hold well. Here we have Hound compared to two of the Combiner Wars figures, Voyager class Silverbolt and Deluxe class Rook. And here's a sort of random lineup: Classics Voyager class Optimus Prime, Cybertron Deluxe class Buzzsaw, and Commemorative Series Soundwave. And here we have him with two other Universe 2.0 Deluxe class figures, Ironhide and Sunstreaker. So, final thoughts, my personal opinions. When I first bought this guy, I was never really a big fan of him. There were a few different reasons, but the majority of it did have to do with his look in robot mode, being sort of, in my opinion, a mix of animated's more cartoony look with the classics Universe 2.0 generations more traditional or detailed look. And I always found it looked a little bit weird, and it contributed to a lot of the problems in the leg, both in the way it looks and also in the way it functions. That said, bringing this figure out and reviewing it, I still do have some of those problems, but I don't find them to be as big of a problem. But looking at him objectively and trying to give recommendations, if you don't have a personal pet peeve with the look or anything, which is basically what you're going to see here, the legs are a little clunky, there's some problems with the waist, but if you see all of that and think you can live with it, then I don't see too many problems. And as far as the vehicle mode, it's pretty much flawless in my opinion, outside of, once again, if you have a problem with some things with the looks. But in general, I would say if you're like looking for Generation 1 accuracy or recreation of the character, this or the Henkey version are probably the best you're going to get. If you just like the character, I mean, it does look like Hound, kind of fulfills that role. You have some extra money on hand and you're just looking to go back and buy some of the old figures. This still wouldn't be like my top recommended figure for the Universe 2.0 line. Personally, I'd recommend going with figures such as Sunstreaker or Prow. This guy's probably in the middle. Definitely buy this guy before you go with the Armada Hotshot or Galvatron. Even if you're bigger fans of those characters, trust me, you'll be happier with this toy. Thanks for watching this review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you found it insightful. If you want to see more of my figure reviews, you can go to my channel, so stay tuned for the regular Transformers commentary videos, and you can also follow me on Twitter for more regular updates on Transformers and other stuff. Anyways, that's all I have to say for now. Thanks for watching, stay tuned, and have a good one, guys. I'll see you soon.